to create themselves without certain aspects of their and attributes they would normally bring along. This is a dangerous practice in my mind. However, not the discussion for today. The Anu, the indivisible unit, the Kalapa, as Buddhists call them, bring not only their space and their gravity, but they also bring their time. Now, gravity and time are equal attributes on the other side of the materium, and they are unequal, opposite parts of duality on this side of the materium. And here's how they are equal and opposite on this side of the materium. Gravity is thought of as the weak force by physicists, and the reason that they think that has to do with how they've smashed atoms and all of this kind of stuff. But in reality, it can be easily understood that gravity is a weaker force than time because of the way that gravity works. Gravity only knows how to react with other gravity close to it. And it knows how to react to those other gravities in different ways. It's very sophisticated. It's very intelligent in that regard, because the gravity of your individual atoms know that your atoms belong to you, so that when you get up, you don't leave parts of your butt in that chair. Nor do you suck up parts of that chair and walk around with it clinging to your ass. You don't ever meld your clothes into your body usually, or any of this kind of stuff. And that's because the atoms of your body and the atoms of the other things within the materium all have gravity that is intelligent enough to know its place, so to speak. And we can talk about that intelligence in another Wujo, because it's rather interesting, and it's a component of the templates. Now, the smart gravity, if you will, it only interacts locally. So the gravity of your body, it's true, it actually does make a difference to the star Sirius, okay? Way the hell gone from here, or even to our own sun. The gravity of your walking around changes the planet, and the gravity of your farts changes the atmosphere. But I would dare say that the level of impact is far greater with a fart pollution of the atmosphere from the gravity component than our effect on the sun. So our effect on the sun, gravity-wise, is very, very, very weak, because gravity is only strong when interacting through the template closest to it, and it has a very weak force far away. So gravity, to a certain extent, can be nullified relatively easily, because you can generate stronger forces that will impel the gravity or disrupt the ability of the smart gravity to understand what's close to it, and then it'll just sort of behave isolated on its own and not try and do anything with the other gravity around it. Thus is basically the principle of anti-gravity. If you shield the object with a high enough level of radiation, a higher level of vibration than is being expressed by the gravity at that point, then the gravity is neutralized. And yet the gravity within the object doesn't come apart. When you get into an anti-gravity machine, for instance, your cells don't fly apart if they design the machine appropriately. If they don't, they could. Your cells could fly apart if the gravity on the inside of the machine was disrupted and in an inappropriate way. All of the cells would decide, well, I don't belong with this other cell, and they'd go decide that the next time they created themselves in the next pulse, they wouldn't be together. And then the next time after that, they'd be further apart, and so on and so on. And that's basically how gravity works. And you can see that gravity at a weak level in space, where you get two objects, and there really isn't anything between them, the gravities are going to seek out each other and extend themselves out into a much further area, because they're not involved with a lot of atoms around them. And so the gravity will have, if you will, more spare time to seek out gravity that's further away. So gravity actually works differently in space when there's less crap around than it does down here on planets. And this actually has to do with the way in which the yin energy, which is if you will, a collective template override on gravity, functions. So gravity is like that. It's a weak force, but it's very strong close to itself, and very weak as it gets away. Now, time also comes in with the atoms as they create themselves. So, for instance, the negatively ionized hydrogen atom will bring in some time for its lifespan, and as will the uranium atom. And we know from reality that hydrogen won't last as long as uranium. For various different reasons, the hydrogen ion will go scurrying about and destroy itself in some kind of a chemical reaction, or electrical energetic reaction, actually, in a much more rapid nature than will the uranium atom. And so the uranium atom has a time component that it's bringing in that is different than that of the hydrogen atom. All this can be expressed mathematically, and I'm not going to bore you with any of that, but The uranium atom's lifespan is obviously being different, bringing in a component of, if you will, a stronger attachment to time is how, now that's how the people at CERN think of it. They think that there's this like ubiquitous force called time out there, like time is big, giant Velcro in the universe, and each and every object has its hooks are more or less voluminous and able to hook onto the Velcro of time for a shorter or longer period. That's not how time works. There is no ubiquitous force like that relative to time. Time actually is an extremely fluid, changeable kind of a thing. Time is the opposite of gravity. It comes along with each and every one of the atoms as they create themselves from the Anu side through to the Materium side, and they bring the time of their lifespan, their existence, along with them when they come on in. Now, that also has overrides. We can get into that in template discussion. But the time associated with the individual atom is interesting because, unlike gravity, it's very, very weak, close to itself. Time is very stupid relative to those other elements of time that are local to itself. However, it's very smart collectively. So all of the time components from all of the atoms work together, regardless of the fact that there's distance separating us in a huge way. So your farts matter more to the planet Sirius in a time sense than they do to the hairs on your ass, which are a lot closer. And the time component of ourselves moving around and acting is much more generative of a larger level of impact on the ever-present now, which is the way I collectivize all of the individual times that is brought in with all of the atoms. So our activities are much more impacting on that than we are ever on gravity, and we're probably more aware of our impacts on gravity or its impacts on us, falling and tripping and so on, than we are ever aware of our own impacts on time. We can actually influence time. This is, I think, some of the information from the RV guys and so on. I do not buy the idea of multiple timelines, obviously, because the multiple timelines theory is part and parcel of the Big Bang Theory. It postulates basically an empty balloon filled with bazillions of different time streams that an individual atom collection like ourselves, our bodies, our planet, could flop from one time stream to another. And the Materium is not constructed that way. Each atom brings in its own time constraints with it when it creates itself and when it pops into existence through the Materium. It's already spinning. It's already got its lifespan determined. This actually goes to the old saying that the Swedes have around here. I'm in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, and it used to be a resource economy. I worked what's known as the green chain, when you're going out and work in the woods harvesting timber for the lumber industry. At the time that I got into that industry, it was pretty much dominated by the aging Swedish immigrants to this region. And so a lot of the culture of the logging industry here is Swedish and Norwegian. One of the sayings that you frequently see, especially expressed because people die in the green chain very frequently, it's very dangerous work, is that the Swedes would always, we would always hold a memorial service for everybody who died, of course. Interesting, and we'll get into that in another time. Anyway, though, they would always say, that Father Time wove the skein of your life before you were born. And that is their understanding, and that actually expresses what's going on, that when you're born, you're bringing in a collection of atoms, which these atoms are smart. The time involved with your body is going to accumulate more atoms that have longer time and proceed through with your karma, but time is brought in with you when you are created, when you're born. Actually, before you're born, So as your atoms are coming into existence from the other side of the Materium consciousness boundary. So under these circumstances, the understanding that people have multiple time streams is inaccurate. I can explain all of the multiple time stream effects from my little bloop theory in a much more elegant, in my opinion, manner than is postulated by the violence necessary for the Big Bang. And also think about it. If there were multiple time streams, think about the level of energy, the violence that would be required to shift anything, even an atom, from one time stream to another. Because time is a strong force, as the scientists will tell you. As they're out there, look what they had to do. They had to build CERN to try and smash time because it's so damn strong. Gravity was nothing. I mean, Thomas Bearden and T. Townsend Brown, all these guys, they can overcome gravity without any problem. But look what they've got to do. Look what the mad scientists have to do to try and overcome time. They've got to build the largest single scientific horror weapon on the planet, CERN, run by the largest collection of mad scientists ever assembled. And they're running off in group mind on groupthink with a group understanding that's totally wrong, and they're going to group us all. And we'll know it when they fire that thing up and they hit the wrong particular frequency, and we'll be grouping food from that point on. Hopefully, of course, the global coastal event in universe will come along and smash the shit out of CERN, and we won't have to worry about it. Anyway, so here's the thing about time. The time in our bodies works with the collective time, the ever-present now. The gravity works only with a gravity that's local to us, and it really doesn't give a shit about the gravity in Sirius. It's basically lived in a holler all its life, and all it knows is its little territory, and it really doesn't care much about anything else. Time, on the other hand, is extremely cosmopolitan. It joins all of cosmology. And so your time component is something that really should be explored. The time component is also intimately involved with, at our level, the chakras, because as the individual elements are created, as your body accepts energy, and it comes through the chakras. That's what causes the chakras to spin, is the energy being created and coming through into the materium. That's what gives your body motion and gives your heart the ability to pump blood, and the lungs to expand, the diaphragm to suck the lungs in and get air going in there. And the key to flow, all of this. And that is the spin that's generated as the atoms create themselves and pop in through existence through your chakras. The chakras are like a toolkit. There's interesting things you can do with them, but you got to be an adult to deal with that. It's not anything for kids. The chakras and the little bloops, the component of that, do actually, at the very center part of the chakra, where it does not spin, where the elements are coming through, that's where you can enter into the boundary layer that I call the stream, that other people also call the stream. Lowercase s, I mean, we're not capitalizing it, but that's actually the boundary layer between consciousness and the materium. And if you want to think of it, would be like we're inside a giant basketball where all the air molecules, and by going into our own little chakras as air molecules, we could pop into the skin of the basketball and do things. Go whizzing around the basketball very fast and go to other parts and do all of that kind of stuff. It's actually the chakras and the ability to get it to that center part is at its core the center component, pun intended, of the cities. And the cities, that's SIDDHI, are not people or any of that. They're powers that, or abilities, capacities, truly capacity in the sense of potential, electrical potential and capacitance. But they're capacities that you get as a result of being able to meditate and get to these particular places that are as real as any other part of materium. In fact, more real, because they actually span the boundary between the materium, which is an illusion of our brains. And that is a long talk on only 3 little subjects. Boy. Okay, so this is going to be it's going to be hard, guys, by the way, to keep my discourses on the immediacy data down to a half an hour. I'm going to try, because there's going to be 4 of them a month minimum, and it takes a lot of work to prepare the data. I was up from 4 this morning running the data sets to do the processing for the Thursday run, but it may be difficult to keep them under 45 minutes to an hour. Anyway, so this is a test of the Wujos. Hope it made some sense, and watch out for them mudras. Nasty bastards in the hands of the nasties. Thanks much.